Along Outer Ring Road, I did notice one of those vehicles that is normally used by riot police, heading towards that direction, the Feather area, blaring its sirens. I don't know whether it's an indication that something is happening already, but we'll keep a look at that and keep you updated on how things are going to play out today. Anyway, as I was saying, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has accused the government of reactivating the outlawed Mungiki sect to stifle dissent in the Mount Kenya region. Now, speaking during a church service in Nyeri, Gachagua alleged that the group led by Maina Jenga has been sanctioned to target individuals critical of the current regime. Jenga, a former government critic, now turned ally, on New Year's Eve pledged allegiance to the administration and dismissed Gachagua's political influence in the region. The former DP, who was accompanied by Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga, among other leaders, claimed that the sect has been revived in a similar fashion with the Moi era to intimidate voters.
Started saying no. A criminal gang was formed to come and punish the people because they were saying no to bad governance. That gang, na huyo kiongozi wa hiyo gang alikuwa kijana mdogo then, kaitwa na Moi akaambiwa ude hiyo kikundi. Is the same leader alikuwa hapa on 31st. Same. That gang, Father, descended on the people of this region with brutal efficiency. They beheaded people, circumcised our women, raped our daughters, defiled our children, extorted money from bus stops, demanded money for dowry, collected money kwa duka. They caused chaos in this region. In the year 2009, Mheshimiwa Kafadha is here. Pale Gathaithi waliua watu 29. Wakakata hao vichwa. Si mnakumbuka? It took the late John Mechoke 4 years to deal with that criminal gang. Years later, history is repeating itself. Government has been managing the economy. It has become unpopular. People have started saying no. The same gang leader ametafutwa na serikali na ameletwa hapa to force the people of this region to accept the president and his deputy.
At the same time, leaders allied to President William Ruto have called for the disciplining and action to be taken against the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. And this is what they had to say, including one of the leaders, Oscar Sudi.
Na ndio kiongozi wao ni former Deputy President mwenye alikuwa anapanga kupindua serikali. Sasa hiyo group, wacha niwaambie, we have no time for you. Kenyans have no time for you. Na rais, usiogope. Hiyo watu wakileta ya kisirani, kamata. Kwani iko nini? Watafanya nini?
Kipchumba Sudi. Kumbe akakuwa Kipchumba Murkomen. Tena juzi nimesikia tena nilikuwa nategea ukasema tena Kipchumba Murkomen. Sasa wangenipatia hiyo docket hiyo ya usalama siku 3 peke yake. Hiyo watoto na ujinga hiyo ya kuchora vitu kwa maneno itaisha. Kwa sababu lazima tu hakuna inji inaongozwa na upuzi. Lazima inji yote inaongozwa na katiba na heshima. Si ni kweli? Yeah. Na mtu asikutisha rais. Unajua mimi nasikia naona ule mtu tulivuguza hapa anaongea hapo. Mwingine anasema sijui nini hapo. Mai kuona inji yenye mtu anaenda tamu moja. Hakuna hiyo. Wataruka juu chini. Lakini
Oh my goodness. Oscar Sudi is one guy who will need to learn how to control his tongue. His mouth, just like the current US president, incoming US President Donald Trump, his mouth is his undoing. Now, on a day when Gen Zs are threatening to go to the street, this is what your leader Oscar Sudi is saying. Anyway, let's see. You are ensnared by your tongue. President William Ruto now says that the government has successfully stabilized the country's economy and will now turn its focus to the implementation of key development projects. Ruto says in the past 2 years, key development programs had stalled due to economic challenges. He, however, pledged that this year, Kenyans will witness the implementation of various programs. The president says despite the challenges, the government has made significant progress in the economy, security, agriculture, healthcare, education, and electricity connectivity, among others. President Ruto made the remarks during the Kerio Valley Interdenominational Prayer Service in Tot, Elgeyo Marakwet.
Mnajua sekta ambayo iliathirika zaidi wakati mambo ya uchumi ilileta matatizo ni sekta ya infrastructure, especially road infrastructure, kwa sababu gharama yake ni gharama ya juu. Na ndio tukasema kama serikali, kabla hatujashughulika na mambo ya barabara, kwanza tuhakikishe ya kwamba tumestabilize the economy. Tumeweka uchumi wetu, tumeidhibiti vizuri. Kwa miaka miwili tumepambana na kudhibiti uchumi wa taifa letu la Kenya, and I can now say confidently that the economy of Kenya is now on good standing. Ile inflation ilikuwa 9.6%, tumeteremsha sasa iko 2.7, 2.8%. Ile exchange rate ilikuwa imepanda karibu 160 something, sasa exchange rate iko hapa 129 ikiteremka chini. Ile interest rate ilikuwa na matatizo, sasa ndio hiyo imeanza downward trend. Ile mambo ya foreign exchange ilikuwa inatusumbua sana, sasa imeongezeka by almost $3 billion. So we can now confidently say we have managed to stabilize this economy, when I told many people that we are going to do so by making fairly difficult decisions, but necessary. Sasa mimi nataka niwaambie mwaka huu, kwa sababu sasa uchumi wetu umekuwa na msingi sawa sawa, sasa hiyo kazi ya mabarabara tutaisukuma kuanzia mwaka huu. The transformation of our agricultural sector is underway in Kenya. We are producing more maize, we are producing more wheat, we are producing more sugarcane, we are producing more milk, we are producing more coffee, we are producing more tea. And that transformation that is going on in Kenya is why we are here to celebrate not just the peace in this region, but also the transformation of our agricultural sector.
Well, I must admit, I must agree with the president. There are some things that have happened in the country that are positive. You know, you have people who go around saying there's absolutely nothing that has happened. That is not true. That is truly not true. I like that. Truly not true. Because if you look at some of the things that have happened, if at the beginning of last year, we had food prices at ridiculously high, high cost, in the sense that your normal unga ugali was almost going for 200. Right now we have it at 100 and something. Petrol, don't even mention it. It has gone down. The US dollar against the Kenya shillings, we had gone to levels we have never been to in as far as the exchange between the Kenya shilling and the US dollar is concerned. It has also gone down. There's a lot of costs that have gone down. There are things that need to happen still to make the lives of Kenyans bearable. But definitely there, I agree with him, there are things that have happened. So you got to give credit where it's due and then put pressure where you need to put pressure. The Deputy President was also out. I'm talking about Kithure Kindiki, who sent a stern warning to leaders who take his quietness, restraint, and soft-spoken character for granted. Speaking during a Thanksgiving service in Embu, the Deputy President revealed that although he may remain quiet mostly, he was focused on delivering the promises of the Kenya Kwanza government to the people and that he should be respected. He pointed out how he was taken for granted when he was the Interior Cabinet Secretary and people undermined his credibilities of stemming crime, but he managed to do it. The DP further revealed that he was not going to change his character and make noise, but called for respect on all levels, from leaders to residents and all people.
Sisi hatusemi mtu asikuje. Kila mtu aende kila mahali, kila kiongozi amekaribishwa. Hata hapa mbele North, hata mahali popote, kila mtu amekaribishwa na asipigwe kelele. Kwa sababu kazi ya kupiga kelele ni kazi ya mtu ameshindwa. When you are unable to articulate yourself, you make noise. Isn't it? When you are unable to persuade other people, you make noise. So musipigie viongozi kelele. Hata ule mjumbe utatoa kwa kiti, we ngojea umtoe 2027. Why are you making noise now? Musipige kelele, we muitishe mambo yake ile ya CDF, ya basari, ya nini. Kama umeamua utamchagua, your time will come. Because there is a difference between leadership and populism. Those are two different things. Leadership ni kufanya majukumu kubwa, kuchukua kilio cha wananchi na kujaribu kutatua shida za wananchi, sio kutafuta makofi na kutafuta kupigia watu wengine makelele. So we need to be very careful. The start of this new year, we must be very focused na tuheshimiane. Tuheshimiane sisi zote, wakubwa kwa wadogo. Wananchi tuheshimu wananchi. Wananchi waheshimu viongozi wao. Hata kiongozi wako akikukosea, wewe muheshimu, na kwa sababu ni viongozi wa kuchaguliwa na kura, siku ya kupiga kura ikifika utamuadhibu kwa kumtopigia kura. But we cannot be a country of indiscipline, a country of lawlessness, a country of violence and making noise. So all leaders are welcome everywhere, anywhere. They should be treated well, whether they are in office or they are out of office. It doesn't really matter. They are still our leaders. But they must also respect other people. Na pia waheshimu viongozi wale wengine. Naona watu wanaongea mambo mingi hapo, sijui nini. And I like it that way. Wanaangalia, wanaona kama ni kitu rahisi. We will not allow that to continue. Tuheshimiane. You saw when I went to the media interview before Christmas, I was very restrained. I didn't want to attack people. I didn't want to talk about other people. But you see, the problem is that people may think that we don't have anything to say. So tuheshimiane. Mimi nitaendelea na heshima yangu. I'm not going to change myself. I'm going to stay the way I am. Lakini tuheshimiane. 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 Tuheshimiane.
Well, I don't know what to tell the Deputy President. Some wise guy once told me that respect is earned. At the same time, by virtue of his position, he definitely deserves respect. You respect the position. And that's one thing we have to learn, because when we start disrespecting positions, disrespecting offices, disrespecting institutions, that's how a country starts breaking down. Because if we disrespect the police, that means we will not listen to them. And if we don't listen to them, then we lose law and order. They may not be the, people in the world, but the position they hold, just like Jesus told the disciples, that the Pharisees sit on the seat of Moses. By virtue of that, obey them, but do not do what they do. A dark cloud covered an area called Kerwa Village in Kikuyu constituency, Kiambu County, after a 29-year-old man, Peter Kegwai Gashungwa, was stabbed to death by a 28-year-old woman, Grace Washeke. The woman who is actually believed to be the gentleman's lover. According to the deputy chief of the ward, the suspect surrendered to the police at Kerwa station after carrying out the murder. The residents have asked the security departments to investigate the many foreigners who've now moved to the area, most of whom are suspected to be involved in some of the murder cases that are happening in the area.
Bernard Wairu Ngugi, Assistant Chief, Kero Sub-Location. Tumeshuhudia kifo yenye imetokea hapa karibu na Kero Shopping Center. Mahali msichana amedunga mwenzake, rafiki yake, usiku wa manane, na hiyo ripoti imeripotiwa Kero Police Station, na suspect mwenyewe, msichana mdogo, anaitwa Grace, alienda karipoti kitu masaa ya saa 1 asubuhi, na ndio maana tumepata ripoti tukakuja kuangalia scene, na tumepata kweli hiyo kitendo ilifanyika. Zaja tubiona ni kama visu 2 tumboni. Na weza kuomba watu wadogo, vijana, kama wamekosana wasichukue sheria mikononi mwao. Kuna njia nyingi za kukabiliana na makosa yenye inatokea katika relationship. Waongee na kuwe na kuvumiliana.
Lakini tunasema administration iwe inafanya kazi juu watu wale wanaajiliwa huku na watu wanamakaa huku, hatujui ni gani na utukuzifu fulani. Nasema administration yetu iwe inafanya kazi juu tuajiliwe sisi zote. Tujue iko makosa kwa sababu administration yetu na hiyo msichana yetu amefanya hiyo kitendo. Tujue ni nani.
It's a very unfortunate way to die. I'm not saying there's a glorious way to die, but I believe there is. As believers, I think we should just be sleeping after the Lord has told you that you're going to go home today. So we sleep and we go. I don't believe that's my belief. You should not be, oh, I died. At least there should be some premonitions. But that's a sad way of dying. Now, another Nyahururu Catholic bishop, Joseph Mbatia, has called on leaders to be tolerant and observe respect for the rule of law. The clergy observed that the country was facing a myriad of challenges orchestrated by the political leadership, and hence it is time they take caution and ensure they stop issuing statements that could jeopardize peace and harmony of the country. Speaking at St. Teresa's Equator Catholic Parish during a Sunday service, the Catholic prelate noted that leaders are elected to protect the lives of the people and improve their living standards.
Mtu akiwa kiongozi, kazi yake ni kuona ya kwamba has protected life. Human life is the key. Is very key that we must protect it. Lakini ukiachilia watu wauawe nini, na wewe ni kiongozi, nasema juu ya anybody, lakini mimi nasema ukiachilia watu wauawe, wakufe, ukiangalia where are we? Do we have leadership in this country? Watu wakifa, our responsibility as leaders, our responsibilities as leaders, even those as carries, even those whoever as leaders, is to protect life. That is our work, That is our responsibility in this country. And yeyote, kwa sababu sisi wote tunaishi pamoja, we must protect the life of the other person. Is very important, is very variable in our life as a community. A community called Kenya, a community called Nyandarua, a community called Nyahururu, a community called whatever. The life of that particular person is very important. And that is our work. And we should protect the life of every person in the world.
At the same time and elsewhere, Bishop Alfred Rotich of the Catholic Diocese of Kericho reiterated his plea during the opening of the Jubilee Year of Hope in his diocese. He appealed to the government for mercy and clemency, urging that the country's political challenges need to be addressed through dialogue. The bishop emphasized the need for the government to utilize its resources to give Kenyans the clarity and answers they are seeking for.
The politics, the way we live in our country is a result of the mess in our politics. We have taken it to be what we call auctioneering. But if it was really to serve the people, there is a process, and those processes have been provided by the Constitution. So let us not be afraid. All I am asking now, even if they are alleged abduction, as a church, we appeal. I am not going to go into the depths because the government have the tools to research. And if there is a cry from whatever corner that there is a Kenyan, not only in abduction, but every Kenyan, a Kenyan citizen, the government ought to take care of that, to provide the dignity, to provide all the means possible to secure that life. The government has the right, has the what it takes to provide security to his own plan. I wish to appeal that they too have mercy. I wish to appeal that there will be a clemency also in terms of if there is any wrong. If a country, if people are always making mistakes, we have a place where we can take them and to use all the means, like the right steps on the structures of government in order by way of following the law. So I want to appeal that we use this opportunity and to ask Kenyans that yes, when we ask this question, ask them truthfully, identify, report them, and then look at the instruments that government has provided, and if it is not adequate, continue to press, but in a way that is not destroying life, because no two wrongs can make a right.
Now you remember the cattle rustling and the violent attacks that have been happening in the Kerio Valley. Well, yesterday there's an interdenominational meeting that was basically done in the area to try and cleanse what they say is blooded soil, because the lives of people have been lost in that area, and mostly innocent people. And what they based it on is, you remember in Genesis when Cain killed Abel, and then, his blood was spilled on the ground, and God, talking to Cain, told him, the blood of your brother is crying out to me. So they say in Kerio Valley, and all the leaders basically, and religious leaders from that area gathered in the same meeting, they said the blood of the innocent people in that area has been crying out. And that blood cries out vengeance. It's demanding vengeance. But the blood of our Lord Jesus Christ demands something else. It speaks a better language than the blood of Abel. And so the leaders gathered there, and together they prayed over the soil so that the voice of the blood, innocent blood that has been spilled in the area, can be appeased through the Lord Jesus Christ's blood. And this is some of the preaching that took place in Kerio Valley yesterday.
Ukisoma katika maandiko haya in Numbers chapter 35 verse 3 kuna onyo kubwa. Biblia nasema do not pollute the land where you are. Bloodshed pollutes the land. Kwamba damu inayomwagwa katika mchanga inanajisi mchanga. Na Biblia nasema when you walk, mukipanda, mukiweka vyakula katika shamba yenu, katika kalenjin, kale kuosu tukun. I was asking the other day, kibano momoni, kibano Syria, kibano Lamon. Are you getting what you are? Kibano ilienda wapi? Yenye tulikuwa nakula jana tulipokuja njiani. Mmoja wetu akasema unaona hii miti ilikuwa na sanga sana, ni ile ya msituni tu, matunda ya msituni. Kwa sababu imejaa damu, ina pollute the land. Hiyo ndio hatari. Brethren, I want to ask and request, we must disarm the heart and the mind. Your Excellency, hii disarmament ya kunyang'anya mokora punduki, yes, utanyang'anya mokora punduki, but criminality is not within the gun. Criminality iko kwa mtu. The gun is not a criminal, and in fact the gun was formed, was designed by a criminal. So nataka tuseme ya kwamba if we want a lasting peace, we have to disarm the evil that is in man. Na lazima to disarm, and that disarmament iko kwa moyo na iko kwa akili.
You know how true that is. And I was pondering on what the gentleman was talking about. One of the things you realize is that we do everything in this life to try and get more. People kill one another because they're looking for land. They're trying to get money. They're trying to do this. But I just saw a post by a friend of mine called Kiama Karaoke on Facebook. That's amazing. And this is the realities of life. He says, in 100 years from now, that is going to be 2115, we will all be dead and buried with our relatives and friends. Strangers will be living in the home that you're now living, which you have fought so hard to build. And they will own everything you have today, including that car you spent a fortune on. Your descendants will hardly know who you are. How many of us know our grandfather's father? Very few. After our deaths, we will be remembered for a few years. And a few years later, our history, our photos, our good deeds will go into, the pit of forgetfulness. We won't even be memories. Maybe if one day we stop to analyze this question, we would understand how ignorant and weak the dream of obtaining and getting into the rat race. Well, make your life comfortable basically is good, but we'll realize how futile this was. Always having more and more without having time for the things that really matter. Spending time with your family, impacting and investing your life in your family, investing your life in other people's lives. Those are the things that matter. Investing your time in your spiritual life to impact this life, impact the lives of people positively. All these things will be done. You know, the other thing that reminds me is Paul. Paul says at that time there was one of the guys, a disciple that he was with, called Demas. He says, Demas has departed from me, having loved the present world. If you go to Rome today, all you see are the ruins, the Colosseums, the things that Demas departed from the faith for. Now you go to Rome, you just see stones, old stones. And you wonder, this is what Demas departed from the Lord for? So we gotta invest our lives in the right things. And talking about right things, you know, I don't know what happens, but there are things that happen in churches, and mostly so worship leaders and men who lead in praise. They come up with things that shock at times. There's these three individuals, I'll call them the three wise men. They decided that in their wisdom, which I don't think was wisdom, they were going to introduce a new way of praising the Lord in the church. You ask me, what way did they invent? This. Now, Alice is our worship leader. Alice is the director who's telling us what to do from the other side. She's a worship leader. I don't know, Alice, maybe. Hey, I don't know whether you would be able to toboa that if they introduced that in your church. Anyway, let's take a short break. When we come back, we take a look at what's happening in the newspapers. All right, welcome back. Ni wakati wa kuangalia magazeti. And we're going to start off with the Standard newspaper, which has education systems at crossroads. That's the highlight or headline. Education system at crossroads. Schools open today amid a storm of challenges. Teacher shortages, incomplete classrooms, delayed funds, and nationwide safety concerns. Parents, students, and educators brace for the unpredictable as the grade 9 transition under CBC kicks off, and the protests loom over abduction and governance failures. So you remember we did talk about the fact that there's a possibility today there are going to be demonstrations. The demonstrations are being led by grieving families and students who are basically protesting against abduction. So probably we might see some sporadic events, running battles in different parts of the country today as these young people basically decide to tell the government, we are sick and tired of the murders that are taking places. And then on the second page, you have MPs criticizing Gachagua for attacking elders. Then the third page, questions over students' safety as schools open amid protest threat. And then the fourth page, classrooms and teachers crisis, great transition to grade 9. Now, I've been around for a while, and the country has never gotten to a place where it had sufficient number of teachers. So the crisis of teacher shortage is not a new one. It's something that has been there all through. Lack of classrooms, again, is not a new crisis. It's something that has been there. And until, governments basically deal with this, I think now we have a shortage of around 20,000 teachers. The government has been employing a number of teachers. And that's the reason why I say, give credit where it's due. There's some the government has employed quite a number of teachers. If you compare the number of teachers that have been employed within this regime and the number of teachers which were employed in the previous regimes, I mean, President William Ruto has done a real commendable job in employing the teachers. And I'm not saying that I'm supporting the government or not supporting the government, but I'm just being straight. Let's give credit where it's due and highlight the problems where they are. So they are this. And so this will not ground the education sector to a halt. Any educationist will tell you we've never had sufficient number of teachers from time immemorial. But now we are bridging that gap. But the demonstrations on abductions, well, let's just say probably this is the only language that the government understands. People have been abducted. We've not had concrete answers from the government concerning this. The president did say that these abductions will stop. They're still going on. And we need the perpetrators to be brought to book. This cannot go on. If you see the faces of parents who've lost their children, children are not supposed to die before their parents. The children are supposed to bury their parents. But now these kids are disappearing and appearing in certain areas in body bags. That is not right. As I said, give credit where it's due and criticize where there is need for. And then the back page of the Standards, Arsenal stumble in Premier League title race as Manchester City stroll. And then they have the picture of Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta. I wish it was possible for you to see him. He's put on a very serious, sad demeanor. The kind of demeanor he looks at you can take off. Then the Nation, I almost said the Nation. The Nation, Daily Nation, rough start for schools. Rough start for schools, and this has everything to do, it says infrastructure crisis hits schools amid cash crunch, principals defy ministry order, and they've increased school fees. Parents, booksellers cry foul over textbook shortage. MPs want allocation sent to schools raised. Now, there's something that I've noted with this CBC thing, is you almost cannot pass. You know how in the previous education system, if you're in class 4 and you go to class 5, the next bunch of students coming in are going to use more or less the same books you are using, so you can hand over some of them. We used to call them hand-me-down. Some of these books, In CBC, it looks like this is not possible. I don't know why, because quite a number of books have been changed. As you move, the next bunch that comes in, it looks like it's an entire new collection of books you have to buy. Strange, I don't understand that. But anyway, millions of learners will resume learning in primary, junior, and secondary schools today, amid various challenges that have continually plagued Kenya's basic education sector. Schools will reopen without the 50% annual capitation due to them, while some earning centers will not have classrooms to host grade 9 learners. Additionally, some schools have not received textbooks under the government program, as bookshops countrywide continue to turn away parents seeking to buy learning materials. And then there's a sad situation where water towers in Kenya are at risk as guardians are being silenced. And the story says the Auditor General's report has lifted the lead on the possible loss of 147.7 million shillings that investigators say mysteriously vanished into the thin air at the Kenya Water Tower Agency. The newspaper says it has compiled a series of complaints to the Public Service Commission from the Kenya Water Towers Agency workers, and can reveal there is a covert yet desperate attempt to dismantle the agency, and with it bury significant accountability concerns. Principals defy ministry and they've increased fees. Oh my goodness. Then there's an in-depth story of the water towers. Now, if people are demonstrating, these are the things they should also demonstrate against. The level of corruption in this country. There's a lot of it going on. Then page 6, Kindiki now warns Gachagua and allies. Then page 8, bill proposes staff sanction to protect whistleblowers, law barring micro-lenders from harassing borrowers takes effect. Okay, interesting. You see, micro-borrowers, the phone lenders, there are some of them, despite the fact that central bank had barred that from happening, some of them have been harassing people. Anyway, dawa ya deni ni kulipa. So when you take a lipa, some of them have been criticized, have been harassing people. They call your aunt and they tell them, Simon Makonde has borrowed money and has refused to pay. So please ask him to pay. So you have your boss, your pastor, your bishops, your nanny, all of them asking you, what is this that is happening? Anyway. Then the back page of The Nation, Real Madrid hopeful Vinicius will escape suspension. Ancelotti says, then Kimanzi rallies his troops for clash against Tanzania. Kenya drew with Burkina Faso in their Mapinduzi Cup opener. Then the Star newspaper. Where is it? Yeah, here you are. The Star newspaper has why state tender now a risky business. The pending bills that the government owes a number of Kenyans is now at 528 billion shillings. Excuse me. Now, if you're wondering what pending bills are, pending bills basically come about where somebody take for instance, Simon Makonde wins a tender to do the Rabai Road. Probably the tender is worth 23 billion shillings. So Simon Makonde does his job. It does and finishes the Rabai Road, recarpeting the Rabai Road. And the government now is supposed to pay him the 23, or did I say 23 or 28? The 20-something billion shillings. then the government does not pay Simon Makonde the 28 billion shillings. So what happens is that Simon Makonde now has a debt, because obviously for him to do the 28 billion shilling contract, he must have borrowed money somewhere. There are contractors, there are people who supplied him with materials. Those ones are now not paid. The people who supplied the material, probably took the materials on credit from other people, their wholesalers, and decided they were going to supply Simon Makonde. So you have an entire ring of people who are owed money. And because this money is owed and not paid, then the economy starts to grind to a halt, because now the banks are demanding money from this guy who on paper is a rich man, but is not liquid because the government, or the county governments for that matter, have not paid their debts to these individuals. So they lose their homes. And actually, there are quite a number of people. This story says some suppliers, contractors have reportedly committed suicide, and others have died of depression. You can imagine, here you are, you supplied, you did everything. I know of an individual who did some work for the Nairobi County government. He did a road. And as we speak right now, the Nairobi County government has been using the road for the last 2 years or so. 3 years actually. Have been using that particular road that he built for 3 years. But they've never paid him, I think it's 10 million shillings. So now $1 million question is this, okay, they owe him 10 million Kenya shillings. He owes other suppliers money. So nobody in this line is getting money. And so, you know, the economy grows when I get money and I spend. The kiosk guys get money because I bought a packet of milk, or the supermarkets for that matter, the packet of milk, and they invest. The company that sold the milk gets money. So that cycle keeps on going on. So you have money and the economy grows. But now with pending bills of 528 billion shillings, and that's for the national government. Counties owe 168 billion. Those are families that are owed money. They've lost their houses, they've lost their livelihoods, and as I've said here, some of them have committed suicide. Wow. Now, there's a very strange research that was done. Now, this one says that sex hormones have been found in rivers supplying homes with water for drinking. And the story starts off by saying, it's a piece that is done by a gentleman called John Mushangi. He says, imagine drinking a cup of water straight from a river in the village over Christmas, thinking that it's refreshing and pure. What if instead of just clean water, it came loaded with chemicals, specifically sex hormones? And they're finding that. Then the third page of the Star says, Guatemala troops to join Kenyan police in battle with Haiti gangs. Then the sixth page, why education bosses are on the spot over 6 billion classroom cash. Kindiki dismisses claims of rift with president as he fires back at critics. And then the back page, you have the Star that says patience is key. Why? Kenya drew 1-1 with Burkina Faso on Saturday. Kimanze back Stars to come good after opening Mapinduzi Cup tournament with a draw. And then there's Barcelona boss Flick unhappy with Olmo situation. Hivyo ndio magazeti zinasema. So with that, we basically bring down to the curtains to our morning live show. Now, tomorrow we'll have some conversations about how you set You know, people have been setting goals, setting visions, setting things. How do you set and basically make sure you fulfill what you decided as your year's goals? So tomorrow we have a conversation around that, because I know there are people who last year set goals of losing weight. They say they were going to lose over 20 kilograms because they were overweight. Unfortunately, the last time they checked, they had gained 10 more. So let's find out. How do you make this and you actually make him good? Do have yourself a lovely morning. Remember, sports show comes in, the scoreboard comes in at 2, and then we'll have Gatuzi from around 11:30. So look out for those so that you can know exactly what is happening. And we'll keep you updated, by the way, on whether the demonstrations have started.